remember the Super NES game was looking quite this warpy and bad.
Get like just a cleaner image, and then it just doesn't look right.
No, it just it suffers from that PlayStation lack of Z buffering, so everything kind of warps at times.
Strange. Stupid.
I don't remember exactly where in the games that was, but I do remember seeing it and just being like, oh, come on.
There's
Super
actually
NES was just 16 bits, 3 megahertz. Come on.
There were some games that even did like really early pre-Super FX polygon stuff, but it was like totally shit because it was like at a frame at a time sort of stuff. So things like, Draken and like the Waialae Country Club.
Oh, man. Draken.
Waialae Country Club I loved though.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
Anybody Faceball?
I didn't play that version of Faceball.
I played on Game Boy.
But what was the Triforce coming in on the screen and Link to the Past? Were those polygons or just really good sprite work?
I think those were simple polygons.
I don't remember. That might
They
have
looked like it. They had that smooth movement that you associate
I'm
with.
sure, or they could have been like pre-rendered flat polygons.
Mega Man,
I really don't know.
Mega Man X2 and 3 had the CX4 chip.
Right, they had their own special chips.
Right.
Which is a total of
It's like a
3
rotating
times.
triangle. If you,
There's a
you
title
can,
screen, and here's one boss that has a grid. Okay.
And now the game costs $80. Pay up.
This boss that's not much taller than Mega Man is made out of wireframe.
Whoa. So, should we get into the console wars, or has enough been said about that?
superpower.
Yes.
We can say that at least that Donkey Kong was Nintendo's atomic bomb that ended the console
Right,
war.
and also like the most shysterly thing Nintendo ever did in terms of marketing that thing.
Explain, Ray.
Yeah.
As the first fully rendered game.
Yes, exactly.
That was a flat-out lie.
Yeah, it was kind of hilarious in retrospect because it's really just sprites, pre-rendered sprites, but they made it seem like it
The
was
first
an
pre-rendered
actual
sprite game.
computer-generated thing that was happening in real time. So
Yeah.
Put a tiny CGI workstation in your Super NES.
with no upgrades, no 32X here.
They were right about that, though.
Look, we sent you a videotape with
leaves.
leaves on it. How
Right.
can you doubt us?
Oh, man.
This is the second highest-selling Super Nintendo game under Mario World, and I'm not
Which
sure if
came
with
packed
this.
in.
Yeah, so it's probably the number one selling Super Nintendo game if you want to count it like that. I don't think it's aged particularly well, but I don't think it's a bad game. The first Donkey Kong Country.
No, it's not a bad platformer, but it's also not really something you would expect a brand new Donkey Kong game to be like. Because
Yeah.
it is just kind of like a platformer.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't
a lot
expect
of-
the next 15,
after-
20 years of Donkey Kong to
Right.
be following suit.
Well, it
Makes
did.
me so
Donkey
mad.
Kong's been all over the place.
Yes.
Ever since Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, but he's always that stupid rare model.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. There's no going back from that.
Sorry, that's
unfortunately.
With the dead eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
the
new
rap.
canon. Sorry.
No jump, man.
But yeah, I did like it, and the sequels did try their best to alleviate like the repetitive graphics. after like 2 worlds, it's like all the stages start looking the same, and it's just like different layouts.
What I thought was always weird about the sequels is they got rid of Donkey Kong,
I know.
who is your main selling point.
I know.
And then by the third one, who are these people? These apes?
Exactly.
2 words, Funky Kong.
Oh yeah. Well, he never starred. He was a little too wasted to run and jump.
He's a star of a Mario Kart Wii, though, and that's all that matters.
Oh, I forgot. Is he in that?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
With his funky
I hope he doesn't
cycle.
talk. He probably does though.
He says funky.
Okay.
I knew there was a reason I hated that game.
It's an amazing character.
He is inspired.
Superpower.
So, any other comments on the console wars?
They sure were stupid, and I wish that they had died, but they haven't died. They're still
No.
with us, and I hate them.
I never saw TurboGrafx in person until I was much, much older.
They had one at my local putt-putt. and
That's
I
how
played
dangerous
bonk
they
on
were.
it.
Really?
I paid $1 and played bonk on it.
How was it pay to play?
Yeah, it was like
Like
they,
a
the putt-putt
kiosk?
had the arcades, and then they had like an area with consoles.
Wow, I've never
Just
heard of that
imagine an
Oh,
old.
bonk! I've seen commercials for this. I think I'll play it. Oh, okay. Well, I played it. That's nice.
I just imagine an old man sitting in his stool with a stopwatch staring at you, and just like, "Come on, kid, 20 minutes."
I don't remember how that worked.
Yeah.
But I do remember that they would sell the old games for like $20, and that was worth it.
That is nice.
I think that particular console war was pretty interesting, just because like both of the big players, Sega and Nintendo, were both kind of riding high. I mean, Sega had an early advantage, and they were kind of courting the snot-nosed teenagers for quite a while, and they were doing pretty well with that. But I mean, Nintendo was still doing well. I mean, they're still coming out with a lot of great Super Nintendo games.
They got
Right.
Street Fighter, which pretty much turned
Yeah,
that,
they got-
argument on its
Definitely,
head.
That was a
definitely.
Megaton Punch.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the first. That was the first one.
But
the
then
first big punch.
they lost out on Mortal Kombat because they didn't have the gore.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the whole fighting game thing is like an interesting subset of that console war. I don't think
It almost took
I will
over the
punch
console
you so
war.
hard that you will sweat.
right, and then eventually.
But then Mortal Kombat 2 was totally gory and bloody and everything, right?
Right.
By that
They
point,
didn't-
they'd learned their lesson.
that wasn't
Pander,
that was only
pander.
like a year later, right? Yeah, it's strange to think that we had to wait that long, but I remember playing.
And SF2 on Genesis could have been a total failure, but they turned it around at the last second. Yes.
Hyper Turbo Championship. Am I right?
Special Champion Edition.
Okay. But I think in a large part, the console wars eventually turned into an arms race that Nintendo just kind of chose not to participate in, or sort of decided, we're going to wash our hands of multimedia for now. And there's a whole sordid story about their Super Nintendo CD add-on that I actually just got the full scoop on today thanks to David Shell. Is it Shell or Chef? Sorry, I keep saying Shell. Chef. His book Game Over, sadly out of print, has a really great section on the Super Nintendo CD-ROM. And should we explain what that is, or?
Knock yourself out.
Okay, well, basically, maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Sony was originally contracted to make a disk drive for what would become the Super Famicom. Nintendo and Sony had an argument over basically Nintendo wanted to make their own proprietary format for the CDs, which means people would pay them for production and licensing. Sony wanted the copy protection to be in the console itself and earn money from licensing and not have to pay the production fee that Nintendo would charge for like cartridges. Is that correct?
Sounds about right.
Sounds
Okay.
correct.
You're the one that most recently read up on it.
I want to make sure this is correct because it is complicated.
It is, yeah, and who really knows what's correct? But
Yeah.
it's
The sad
definitely-
thing was that just putting stuff on CD was just a way of like making at the best better music and more storage. Like it was
Right.
such a lame addition to anything.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah.
I can hardly believe it.
But anyways, Nintendo had signed this deal with Sony a while back, and then they realized, oh no, we could be helping another company make money off of our products, and that was unheard of. So,
In Japan.
Yes, in Japan. So they weaseled their way out of the Sony deal and hooked up with Philips, which
A match made in heaven.
yes, the software giant Philips, to make a SNES CD-ROM, which would be compatible with their CDI system, which I believe launched in 1991.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
It was
I
that
didn't
early.
really follow the CDI
Unbelievable.
that carefully.
Yeah. Sony was still developing a Super Nintendo compatible CD-ROM console, and they would eventually work together with Philips and Nintendo to produce something that would be released in 1994. But then Nintendo said, no, sorry. We see how Sega CD, what happens to Sega CD. We see what's happening with other multimedia systems, and we don't want it part of this. So that's basically the story, I think.
I had a Sega CD. I listened to Pearl Jam on it. Probably.
Did you make help Marky Mark make a video?
I mean, I want that game so bad. That looks like a lot of
No,
fun.
he made NXS made it for me, make videos. So.
Yes, I did. I stuck with NXS.
NXS.
Okay.
I did witness Frank Cifaldi at PAX East this year, helping Marky Mark to make his video.
You know,
no, it's
Marky-
Crisscross. My bad. Sorry.
Okay, I think Crisscross does. They do need help in making their videos.
Crisscross needed all the help they could get.
I mean, they're just children.
They were just kids.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get their clothes on straight.
She was only 16.
I love the Crisscross one though because it has Don Pardo as a narrator. As an
No
announcer.
way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. So, do we have any comments on the Super Nintendo CD-ROM? I mean, they were publishing information about it in Nintendo Power. I was seeing
Yeah.
screenshots of the Seventh Guest and stuff like that.
Yeah, not exactly from the CD-ROM system though. But
Right, right.
it was like-
I wish it had
take
at
a
least hit
PC
Japan just so we could see what it would have been like. Like with the modem stuff over there,
the
it was really cool.
64DD,
Yeah.
and the Satellaview, things like that.
Yeah.
They did come out in Japan.
And the only games the only game I can think of that was intended for that system was Secret of Mana. But I can't think of any other ones that where a producer or someone who worked on the game had mentioned.
right, or nothing that was or even really announced. Besides
Yeah,
Seventh
right.
Guest.
Secret
Whatever.
of Mana had such a troubled life because that was supposed to be a Famicom Disk System game, and then that was canceled, and they said maybe you would like to buy this other game, Final Fantasy, instead.
Yeah.
And then that was taken over and was meant to be designed for Super Famicom CD-ROM, and then they pulled that out, so they just took the game that they had created and said, okay, let's just cut chunks out here. So what if the story doesn't make sense anymore? So what if everything's kind of repetitive and aimless at the end?
Can't you get
Just
the
publish the hell.
tracks for that somehow? Or didn't they do a soundtrack or something?
I don't
for
know.
the for the original disc version. I think there's like still I don't know. I feel like I've heard them before. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh,
But the music in the Super Nintendo game is still really good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a technical masterpiece by Hiroki Kikuta. did an amazing job with it.
Right.
Yeah, I do wish that the CD-ROM had come out, just because it would have been cool, I bet. But there's too much bullshit behind it, and then we got those great CDI games.
Yeah, I was going to mention that is the legacy of Nintendo's partnership with CDI. Yeah. The really hilarious YouTube clips of those terrible animations from those games. Look them up, kids. Yep. They're funny.
Their technical development outlet though was in chips and games, right? So like they did do the FX chip. They did, do like
technically
a chip for Mario RPG and
Argonaut
stuff like that.
Software was the developer. Are you talking about Nintendo in general?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, instead of like making like a 32X, they figured out how to do this inside a cart, which I was very, very smart. And it actually worked out for them a lot better.
They definitely stuck to their gun. Everything you need to play Super Nintendo games, you get with the Super Nintendo. We'll put things on carts. And
except for the Super Scope 6, you have to buy that.
They stuck to that gun.
All right, I need to run to a meeting, so I have to go. But I will answer one last point before I leave. What Super NES games still need to hit the Virtual Console? Sorry, spoilers for later in the podcast. Yoshi's Island.
Right.
Come on.
Hey, also, you took mine.
Also, Umihara Kawase.
So, where were we? We're talking about all the fun little add-ons Nintendo put in their cartridges to compete with Sega CD, 32X. We have the DSP chip, which probably used most famously in
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart, right?
Yep, and some other games that were a lot like Mario Kart, I guess.
Yeah. Anything with a sort of like that weird driving perspective in Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, it was basically sort of like an enhancement to the Mode 7 stuff. I mean, it wasn't something very obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, there were a lot. I looked on the Wikipedia article for chips and Super Nintendo games. There's a lot of really just obscure ones that were for one game only, just added on, just because the developer wanted to do something special.
Very similar to the NES too, and the Famicom.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like Mario 3 and Punch Out and stuff all had chips. Yeah. You know what else they did though is they expanded the memory, I guess, in Super Nintendo carts. Right? They've like changed the amount of megs because I remember in Nintendo Power they'd be like a new 32 meg cartridge or something for like a big game.
Cartridge was it like Tales of Fantasia or Star Ocean or something that we never got?
Right. Yeah.
They got big.
64 megabits.
64. Maybe Mario RPG.
That might have been...
No, I think it was Star Ocean and Fantasia.
Yeah, and those games had voice acting, they had songs and stuff like that.
And they cost a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. You paid for that extra storage with Super Nintendo games.
Oh, but they all cost a lot more in Japan. Because, like, that was, like, the bubble days, and it's like, everything was, like, 10,000 yen and up. Not everything, but a lot of stuff was, like almost $100. No, even, like, stupid shit that you wouldn't even want to buy.
Wow.
It was a crazy time, but yeah.
So, I guess our next topic can be why was the Super Nintendo successful? Because obviously it was. And it could have just been Nintendo was in a really good point, and they had a really good part of history. They had a lot of money to throw around, and they really could have made any mistake they wanted to and have been successful. But I think there are some things to the Super Nintendo that Nintendo didn't I guess carry through to their newer systems, or they did carry that same strategy through but didn't apply anymore. What I think made it successful was the fact that, as we were talking about before, everything you needed for that system came with the system. I mean, there were, like you said, the Super Scope Super Soap. Okay, Super
Soaker
6. Damn you, alliteration! You've gotten me again. Anyways, Super Scope 6. But for the most part,
it was low on accessories.
Yeah.
There's the mouse. There's the Super Game Boy.
Even as a kid, you guys probably felt ripped off. Like, I don't want to have to buy all this extra stuff, or like I don't want to have to nag my parents to buy all this extra stuff. That's at least how I saw it.
Or every Christmas I demanded it.
Yeah,
is really what happened.
Okay. Did your parents follow through?
No.
Okay.
I got Game Genie though. It was great.
That's pretty sweet. So I mean, that's my take, and that's sort of the argument I was making with my article in the new issue of When It Presents, that they were very conservative. That worked at the time, and I think that conservative streak kind of hurt them later. But where like we're going to stick with cartridges. We're not going to go to CDs. Everything you need is going to be with the console, which I think is what something they did good with the Wii. I guess you can discount the Wii Motion Plus, but the motion controls come with the system.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no extra cost.
Well, it allowed
there.
them to innovate in gameplay and games instead of just constantly being reset with, like, what are we going to do with the CD system now? What are we going to do with a 32-bit add-on?
Right.
You know, like that started people back at square one for development. You know, if
Yeah.
you started the early days of Super Nintendo and developed, you know, a couple games over that generation, they would be better and better and better.
And whether they intended to or not, they just weren't jumping on bandwagons.
Right.
It was just this thing that Sega was doing and some other companies, you know, trying to promote the next level of entertainment or whatever through whatever shitty platform they devised.
And I think the part of it was also they didn't fragment their audience.
Right.
Even though they had 3 consoles out at the same time, they're supporting all 3. You could have a Sega Genesis, but you couldn't play Sega CD games unless you had that. You also needed 32X to play 32X games. And were there some Sega CD games? It's all confusing to me.
You didn't have to use both.
Okay.
Not mandatory, but yeah, there were 32X enhanced CD games.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, I mean, it was that. I mean, I still don't understand it. I had to go to you guys to figure it out. So, I mean, that's
Very simple. Just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's 15 wires,
Yeah.
and they all have to go somewhere.
Don't cross
Some
them.
have 10 pins. Some have 8.
I bought a Sega CD
mix 'em up.
way after the fact, like 10 years ago, and it came with this weird piece of metal that you had to leave in the system
Right,
so
that
it didn't
shielding
explode or something. I don't know.
Well, there's the piece of metal that goes under the Sega CD that connects the expander to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also the 2 pieces of metal that go inside the Genesis slot that you fit the 32X into.
Okay.
Because for some reason they just decided not to make it fit the right way.
That is some janky technology.
Basically, yeah, Sega just put a lot of sharp objects in a box for kids to
They
play
were
with.
sharp. You could cut yourself.
Don't swallow these kids.
Yeah. All in the interests of the FCC.
Is that what it was? It was a radiation
Pretty
shielding?
much, yeah, a lot of RF shielding.
Yep.
Oh, okay, got it. The thoughts on why it was so successful? And I mean, personally, you guys were Super Nintendo kids, or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
had
never
a
really a
Genesis.
fanboy. I mean, yeah.
well, like Sam, I was indoctrinated.
I was totally a fan.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Even today, the Genesis, I don't like it, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with my feelings as a kid.
I didn't like it because I got rid of my NES. I got a Genesis, and it was disappointing. I just was disappointed with it, especially when I saw what I wanted to play was on Super Nintendo, and then I had to wait a long time to fulfill my wishes. And now looking back, I just missed out on a ton of great Genesis games. I just was unaware of them. I don't know why. Maybe they just didn't advertise to me.
Maybe you didn't subscribe to Sega Visions magazine.
That's what it was. I didn't have the Sega Channel either.
Yeah, well, so few of us did.
Small diversion. Did you actually have to pay to subscribe to that magazine? Because it came to my house for free. I didn't have a Genesis.
Weird.
I enjoyed reading it to see what I was missing out on, but I had a free
they were trying to
subscription
get
for
ya.
yeah. It's like we know you Nintendo kid.
Yeah, they probably bought
Yeah.
a bunch of addresses from whoever
maybe.
published Nintendo Power and then sent them out.
I appreciated the free reading material though.
HS as well.
Oh man.
Mailing lists.
Yeah, one thing that I wrote in my magazine Scroll is, for the first issue was about how the Super NES was a really enduring system in the way that, what Nintendo did is that they started ahead of the curve at the beginning by adding all that extra tech and stuff and having the 32,000 colors and whatever. And that really let the games sort of age a little bit slower. And I mean, the best games, for sure. And
I think we all thought that was going to be PlayStation 3's strategy. I mean,
Yeah, exactly,
I'm not
right?
joking. I mean, I think that it's supposed to be,
yeah, it worked out a little better here. And, maybe I probably didn't explain it that well in the magazine, but I was just trying to make a point that, someone could have a Super Nintendo now, today, and have that be their only system, and still, hook up, one of the best games for it, like Chrono Trigger or some other game that everybody loves, and, still get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
I think, and you hear, you've heard stories about people who still play Tetris like that, and that's the same sort of thing. It's like, you make the right game for it, and it hits the right nerve, and it can really just sort of last and endure. And that's why I think that the Super NES really hit more than a lot of systems in the past and beyond that.
Well said.
Beyond it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of those games are timeless just because no other developer really puts that much effort into 2D graphics, even when they do exist. So.
And another thing is that, the games that made the games and game genres that made a big splash on the NES, both here and in Japan and stuff, were just basically all carried over to the Super NES. And, a lot of them were, games that weren't all that innovative, maybe compared. I mean, there was all just platformers and RPGs and stuff, but they did look a little bit better, and they did have, enough added to them that they were still impressive and lasted well.
And Genesis's big games originally were sports games, and those are the least or those games don't hold up at all, right?
Yeah.
You have a new sports game every year. Generation of Sega games.
I think some people will still swear by, like Madden 94 or NHL 94. Yeah, exactly.
I think
there's some exceptions to that.
Yeah, to go along with what Sam said, I think a lot of the early Genesis offerings were arcade games too.
Right.
And
and you look at Treasure's games, and those are all great arcade-style action games, and, that's what they were good at, and that's what they really sort of capitalized on. And Sonic, too, of course. And, Super NES was like back in the Famicom days in Japan, it was lots of RPGs, and then the Super NES got lots of RPGs.
Yeah.
And so it was just sort of like that carrying on of stuff. And it worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I asked you guys, maybe, do you guys have any stories about personally memorable moments of Super Nintendo gaming? I have one that I carry with me forever, but I'll let you guys go first. Unless you want to have time to think.
Well, I've talked about my traumatic story before.
I don't think I've heard it.
Well, it's not even that interesting because it's mainly about Genesis. But yeah, I took in my NES and sold it for very cheap.
Oh, right.
I had a Genesis, and I was very disappointed. I'd go over to friends' houses all the time, and I'd see amazing stuff coming out on. I'd go to the mall, and you could there's a tiny little Nintendo all Nintendo kiosk, which I haven't seen since then. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
And it was really cool, and you could see all the games behind this one counter. Really, it was small though, and then you could just go. I think it might have even been a World of Nintendo, but without the swag and the shirts and stuff.
Mine was a local business called Famcom.
Was it? It was called Famcom.
Yeah, Famcom, not Famicom. But,
Interesting.
Famcom game. Yeah, they were from. Yeah, this is Washington State, and they had My Little Mecca.
Yeah.
I'd go there every week, and that's where I pre-ordered the Super NES and got that from, and so that was the place to get games for many years.
But I think I ended up getting my Super Nintendo from a strange used game store instead of getting a new because I never had the box or anything. And I barely even remember, but I remember just having to have F-Zero. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Right?
So maybe not the happiest stories for you. Those are
very bad. Yeah. Sorry for your loss.
A Super NES game was responsible for me staying up to 4 a.m. for the first time in my life when I was a kid. And that was Lemmings, which I would play versus mode with my buddy for hours on end.
How did that work in Lemmings? I never actually played versus in Lemmings.
Now I'm on the spot and I totally blanked out. It was
it had a split screen.
Yeah, it was split screen, but it was whoever got the most lemmings from either side. You would have your own color lemmings, but whoever could get the most lemmings in their exits, regardless of the color, basically. So there was a lot of
That's a level. And,
yes, exactly. That is the difficult one. Great, Sam. Thank you.
I know my Lemmings.
In terms of multiplayer, there was a lot of I liked fighting games as much as the next guy, but my fondest Super Nintendo memory, which just occurred to me when you mentioned that, is also just staying up all night after night, playing a game called Metal Warriors, which is a great LucasArts developed mech game.
Oh, yeah.
And it just has such a good multiplayer mode where you just go head to head and you can hop out of these robots and get out of the robots. You're a little tiny human, get in a giant robot, and just pummel each other.
Yep.
Lots of levels. There's split screen, and it's just fantastic. It's one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah, it's another thing I'd like to repeat, and another thing that was in my magazine is that Super NES had a lot of great 2-player games.
Yeah.
And 2+ players. Stuff like Mystical Ninja and Metal Warriors, like you said, and Contra 3 as well, and just a lot of great stuff.
And of course, the Street Fighters and Mario Kart, right?
Yeah.
Mario
Kart, definitely.
Yep. But also less obvious things like Pocky and Rocky.
Yeah. Player games, Tetris and Dr. Mario.
Yep. Oh my God.
Oh, I forgot that came together.
Super great. I mean, first of all, it had the competitive version of Tetris with you drop junk on each other, which is fantastic because you hadn't had that officially on any Nintendo system. And then it had the triple threat where you could play a version of Tetris A
Yeah.
game, then Dr. Mario,
Yeah.
and then Tetris B
Yeah, the
game, and
mixed
it
mode.
adds up the scores.
Okay, man, I need to
So
play this.
cool.
Mixed mode
I
is so
forgot.
great.
It looks great.
And it has nice
Sharp.
music, like it sort of pumps you up a little bit. The music does in that mode, and it's
Yep.
like it's like the Wizard.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do have another little tale. Is that
Go for it.
the time when I wanted Earthbound for my birthday, and so my mom went out to the store and got it. And
I can't believe you were even aware of Earthbound.
My
At
story
the time.
is also
They didn't
Earthbound.
plug it so much.
Oh, I was aware. Of course, I was. I was waiting for it since the NES one.
Wow.
But
Ray Barnold, everybody.
yes, thank you. I'm that crazy. So she came back home, and I was a little bit naughty and peeked in the trunk and saw that instead of that, she got Earthworm Jim,
Oh no.
which I already had. I had to inform her, even though I was a little naughty and had to peek in the trunk for it. But yeah, that was resolved, and so I did get
Cool.
Earthworm.
Do you still have your strategy guide?
Yep.
That's very cool.
I do
Scratch
too.
and sniff.
Well, I'm sure they're in an old magazine somewhere. Yeah.
Still reeking it up.
Yep.
Reeking up your bookcase.
Smelling like barf.
My story is also Earthbound related.
Sure.
But like Ray, I was on the Earthbound train pretty early. Because of Nintendo Power, they had a RPG section in their magazine, and every month they would give you a little more information. I was like, this looks like the coolest game, because I was into RPGs, and it was an RPG, but it had all this weird modern day stuff in it.
I don't know how I glossed over those sections because I read the RPG one because I remember reading about Ogre Battle all the time. And
Yeah.
them, and they were like totally plugging that, but not Earthbound. I don't remember.
Probably
Yeah.
ugly layouts, but
That could have been it. But there are at least two to three features on Earthbound. Just like look
Cool.
at this.
I gotta look back at them and check them out.
Yeah, they're definitely. It got me excited, but I
Did
was
they
12.
call it Earthbound?
They did, yeah. But yeah, so I reserved the game. Remember, it was $72, and this was in 1995.
Sure.
So a lot of lawn mowing went into that.
Yeah.
And I brought it home, and I was absolutely spellbound, like for the entire night. It was a beautiful summer day, of course. So I was in my room with the air conditioning on and the curtain shut.
That's when you're supposed to play it.
Yeah.
I don't judge you.
And I remember my family asking me, we had a swimming pool, like, do you want to come out to the pool? And I was like, no, because I was having so much fun. But it got to the point where I had finished the first two towns of the game, and I'd gotten to the town of Threed, which is the part of the game where there's zombies. And I was like, I could play more, but I'm going to stop, and I'm going to savor this game. And I think at that point in my life, I had not really had an appreciation for video games, but it was that moment where I thought, like, these are things that you should savor, not just like blow through in a night. And I played through a little bit of that
Felt the
game.
same way. I remember that feeling.
Yeah. Over Earthbound or just
Or for Final Fantasy VI, I think.
Okay.
Probably 4 also.
like I needed time to like sit and think about the game and not just like tear through it, and that was a very important part
And,
of
and
my
level up.
And then you become a man.
Yeah. Bar mitzvah,
Yeah, exactly.
playing Earthbound.
Nice.
I became a man. But yeah, that's a really memorable part of my life. Just stopping and saying, no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna play a little bit this at a time, and then yeah. Sorry guys, I get a little choked up
Yeah.
about Earthbound.
I could brag. I could say I got the last copy of Super Mario RPG at EB.
You son of a! I wanted that.
Yeah. Yeah. I also got Chrono Trigger when it came out, so I still have that. And so I wasn't like some people who gave it up later and it's like, oh my god, I can't get it because it's so expensive.
Yeah, I still have my original Earthbound cart, the box, and the guide,
I know
which
the
makes me
box,
one of the
yeah.
richest men in America.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can sell. Is it true? You can just sell the box online
Yeah.
for $100. People will
wouldn't
just
doubt
buy the friggin' box
A
from
little
you.
less than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
People.
Crazy
I want the
Earthbound
box.
fans.
I'd buy it from you.
Well, if things get rough,
No.
I know who to go to.
I wouldn't take your box. It
Okay.
sounds like it means a lot to you.
It is very meaningful. So, I guess this is a part of the show where I asked you guys to think of some underrated or because it's easy and it's kind of boring to just go, oh yeah, Mario World, Super Metroid, Chrono Trigger, the ones we know about.
Yeah.
But maybe what are some ones we don't know about, either, strange, weird titles, imports, or what have you, that
Well,
you guys would
definitely
recommend?
Tetris and Dr. Mario and Metal Warriors, which I already mentioned
Yeah.
are top of my list. I would say
They sound good.
Those are super fun, and like to add to that, man, essentially, UN Squadron is like one of my favorite shooters. I think that one's really good.
Oh, yeah.
It's an earlier one, and then I always had co-op fun when I haven't played this in a long time. I've played all these other games a ton, but I'd never played Joe and Mac anymore. But I used to have so much fun with Joe and Mac, the Caveman Ninja.
I love the Caveman Ninjas.
I was gonna say the spiritual sequel to that, Congo's Caper, is also a good platformer.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
In Japan, it is canonically like the second game, but it's none of the characters. So
Well, there is a Joe and Mac 2,
yes,
Yeah.
but that's not the same game.
There's a Joe and Mac 3 with weird RPG
Which is Joe and Mac 2,
elements.
actually.
Is that true? Does it have weird RPG elements? Or
No,
like...
it just has like a world map.
Okay.
But
And both those games are arcade games, right? So really,
Caveman Ninja.
really bad Joe and Mac on the NES.
Oh, I'm sure it is like a
Tough to find.
terrible.
you know
terrible-
why? Because it wasn't made in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh snap!
What about a little game called Rock and Roll Racing? You guys like that one?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. Was it anything like Biker Mice from Mars? That racing game, sort of
It
isometric perspective.
was isometric.
yeah.
You might be
Okay.
getting confused.
Yeah,
I think Rock and Roll Racing was more of an analog to RC Pro-Am.
and I played both. But did Rock
But
and Roll
isometric.
Racing have actual rock and roll?
It did.
That's
it
what I
had
thought.
a bit version of Paranoid in it.
Oh,
It
what?
was really, really funny.
Wow.
It had a full. Yeah, the soundtrack was all.
Don't forget the Peter Gunn theme.
Yeah.
But was that Blizzard? Am I thinking?
Yes.
Okay. Crap.
One of Blizzard's first games.
Very few games with licensed music at that time. Remember how
Right.
Green Jello did the Spider-Man and Venom and Maximum Carnage soundtrack?
And if you played
times.
Revolution X, you'd get like 5 seconds of Ragdoll when you turned it on.
Yeah. They couldn't handle the Smith.
No.
Oh God!
Stop the New Order bus.
What do you guys got for me? I got some summer gaming to do.
Oh, so wait, what else? Bray, did you
Sure.
want?
Yeah. I also like Spike McFang. The
Spike
Twisted Tales of
McFang.
Spike McFang.
Ray, you were reading my mind today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna name another one that you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
But Spike McFang is really great. It's just a cute little overhead sort of action game, and it has a really the localization was oddly comedic. I think. I mean, it was kind of smart and goofy, not like super
Who made
smart
it?
subversive stuff.
Red Entertainment.
Yeah, but BPS published it, I believe. So yeah,
Red of,
I mean-
of Bonk fame, and what else have they made?
Sakura Tyson.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
is that your only one, Ray, or do you have another
no.
He was
recommendation?
going to mention the Trolls game too, right?
Super Troll Island.
Yeah. Ugh. No, I also like Run Saber, which is an action game from Atlas, and it's very Strider-like. And yeah,
Did that get localized?
yes, absolutely.
I did not know that.
I'm also kind of partial to the Super NES version of Tetris 2, which kind of has this super bizarre
Tetris 2,
art style
what,
to
what
it.
a strange game. And the Superior Tetris is a really good one. But Tetris 2 is really interesting, yeah. And on NES it was too stripped down,
Yeah.
but it's still the
Yeah.
functionality was there.
But on like Super NES, they give it like this super weird cartoon
Yeah.
art style sort of stuff.
Hatris. You're a fan of Hatris?
Beltris.
I've never played Hatris.
I have Hatris, not so much a fan though.
Yeah.
But you know, Bob, I believe it was you who mentioned this game when I was peeking through the preview of One Up Presents. Was Gunman's Proof,
Yeah.
which was a Japan-only game from like '97, which is like
Wow, it's late.
It's like Zelda 3 married with sort of an Earthbound aesthetic.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I would
Yeah.
describe it.
So do you actually swat at stuff with a sword in it?
No,
do
I
you
know
use
it has
turn-based?
guns though. It's like Zelda
Guns?
3 with guns.
Okay.
sort
You
of.
have pistols and Uzi, bazooka. You have all kinds of weird weaponry.
Right. But it's all really cartoony.
Yeah.
And it's also very goofy. It has
You
good
didn't
music
import
as
at
well.
the time, did you?
No. This is a emulator discovery.
Yeah.
I finally got a Super Famicom converter recently, but I don't have that great of stuff for it.
You can also
But-
just get one of those clone systems too, and just
Yeah.
easily rip.
But here's
it
what's cool is that I got this from a friend who'd had it back in the day, and it has one of those bad save
yeah.
states.
Oh, cool.
It's crazy.
Sweet. Anyways, my picks are sort of related. I have The Ignition Factor, 1995 by Jalico.
Yeah,
Is that
I
how you
like
say?
the Fireman better.
That's my second choice.
Yeah, I
The
like it
Fireman.
better. Yeah.
They both sort of play the same. The Fireman's a little more cartoony.
Yeah.
But they're both really like, I don't know what caused these two games to come into existence at the same
I know.
time.
Yeah, that's the weird thing.
But it just makes me think of an era